Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this video, I would like to explain you the family values which is instilled in America. I'm sure that all of us have values in our family. And we can distinguish then between family values in America and Indonesia. And even we may distinguish it with other cultures. For instance, family values are instilled since the children are born. In this case, child raising has an important part in family. It is greater responsibility than many people realize. In addition to meeting their physical and emotional needs, parents have a responsibility to impart a value system to their children. Talking about acculturation, I'm sure it happens each family on each families. Acculturation happens because of the different culture among families or among parents, and acculturation, which begins at birth, is the process of teaching new generations of children the customs and values of the parents' culture. How people treat newborns, for example, can be indicative of cultural values. Americans traditionally have held independence and a closely related value, individualism, in high esteem. It is parents' responsibility to instill values to their children. It is a way of how their children become independent, and also to recognize them the brand of privacy. Privacy means respect to people, to people's preference and people's need. It doesn't mean isolated or loneliness. Parents try to instill these prevailing values in their children. American English expresses these value preferences. Children should cut the umbilical cord and are encouraged not to be tied to their mother's apron strings. In the process of their socialization, children learn to look out for number one and to stand on their own 2 feet. It is the purpose of parents to teach them and instill their children to be independent, to cut the umbilical cord, and then they become independent and not to be tied to their mother's apron strings. And the goal is then the children learn to look out for number one and to stand on their own 2 feet. Many children are taught at a very early age to make decisions and be responsible for their actions. Receiving a weekly allowance at an early age teaches children to budget their money. Preparing them for future financial independence, many parents believe that managing money helps children learn responsibility as well as appreciate the value of money. In this case, not only encouraging children and instill the children to the brand of privacy, they also, their parents also teach children at a very early age to make decisions and be responsible toward their decision they make. Even toward the value of money, parents want the children to appreciate the value of money by allow them to get financial independence or to budget their money and taking part-time jobs. Their jobs when they are 8 until 13 years. They sell milks in the morning from door to door, and they have or they earn money then. It doesn't mean that the parents do not have responsibility to life expenses of their children, but they teach their children to be responsible and to appreciate the value of money they make. Now let's try compare between American and Indonesian toward child raising. In the United States, it is not uncommon for parents to put a newborn in a spirit room that belongs only to the child. It is different to Indonesian. Parents place baby not far from their bed, although some parents place baby in others' bed, but this bed still on the same room. Since baby, the parents teach their children and instill their children to the brand of privacy, including put their children or occupy them to spirit room. Many children are taught at a very early age to make decisions and be responsible for their actions in America. And then when they are teenagers, 13 to 18 years, may babysit at neighbors' homes in order to earn a few dollars a week. Now take a look at these pictures. The background is teenagers. Upon reaching an appropriate age, usually between 18 and 20 years, children are encouraged, but not forced, to leave the nest and begin an independent life. After children leave home, they often find social relationships and financial support outside the family. This independence from parents is not an indication that parents and children is universal, and this is no exception in the American family. So, in this case, allowing teenagers to leave the nest is not universal, or it depends on the family of America. Coexisting with such love in the American family are cultural values of self-reliance and independence. And what about adulthood? Societal and familial treatment of the elderly also reflects this independence and individualism. Their financial support is often provided by social security or welfare systems, which decrease dependence on their family. Again, it depends on the family values that even though mostly or commonly older people in America prefer to stay and live with people who have the same age with them, but still it depends on their family. They like to hang out and talk to people who have the same age with them because of the same idea. Additionally, older people may seek their own friends rather than become too emotionally dependent on their children. That's the reason. Now, let's try to distinguish between American and Indonesian in the elderly. For American, societal and familial treatment of the elderly also reflects this independence and individualism. That's their preference and their need. Older people may seek their own friends rather than become too emotionally dependent on their children. Some families send their older relatives to nursing homes rather than integrate them into the homes of the children or grandchildren. Again, it depends on the family. What about in Indonesia? In Indonesia, the older live with their family. In the big cities of Indonesia, like Jakarta, their family send older to elderly house. Talking about the families and the definition of family itself, in the United States, the nuclear family, which consists the father, the mother, and the children, is considered the family. And the others, called the extended family, common in other cultures, includes grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, nieces, and in-laws. The distinction between the nuclear and extended family is important because it suggests the extent of family lies and obligations. There is the distinction in America between nuclear and extended family relates to responsibility, and this distinction is important so that each has their obligations. When couples marry, they are expected to live independently of their parents and become heads of households when they have children. It is not unusual, it means it is usual in times of financial need for nuclear family members to borrow money from a bank rather than from relatives. It's a sensitive part, right? About money. And grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins then are not directly involved in the same way as they would be in an extended family structure. Now, talking about breadwinner, today's women can be breadwinner or mother can be breadwinner. The prescribed role of the man as breadwinner and the woman as housewife is changing now. These changes include working mothers, house husbands, and an increasing number of daycare centers for children. Some mothers work because of financial need and not because of desire to change their role from housewife to breadwinner. Others choose to work because they feel that financial support of the family should be shared by the husband and the wife. Still, others are motivated to work because of professional interests and a desire to contribute to society. More than 50% of American women are part of the labor force. So, in this case, you are as women. Can you tell us, can you tell me what position are you as mother, as working mother, as breadwinner, or choosing to work to because of supporting family's financial, or you are motivated to work and want to contribute to society. Talking about stability and change in the family, it is almost impossible to describe a typical American family because the United States is such a heterogeneous country. Changes in the American family structure are evidenced by increased rates of separation and divorce. In certain areas of the country, these trends have resulted in growing number of single-parent families, remarried parents, and communal lifestyles. This does not indicate, however, that the institution of marriage is crumbling. It is estimated that 4 out of 5 divorced couples eventually remarry other people. It is not a kind of taboo. The family there, even in fact, support divorced couples to remarry other people. This shift in family relationship may be interpreted as a breakdown or alternatively as an adaptation of the American family to changing roles, attitudes, and values. Now, talking about cultural notes, we know the nuclear family. It includes parents, father, mother, and extended family includes grandparents, aunts, cousins. And other terms for family members, it also part of extended family, in-laws, mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and step families, step-parents, step-sister, step-brother, half-brother, half-sister, and so on. Occasionally, children call their parents by their first names in America, but it is not appropriate in Indonesia. This is often the case with step-parents. Parents usually address their children by their first name, nicknames, or occasionally by their first and middle names. Mother and fathers-in-law are often called by their first names but are sometimes referred to as mother and father. If you are attending a family gathering and would like to know what the familial relationship is between one member and another, you may ask, how are you related? And the following are some of the activities that families share in the United States. They like party, such as birthday, annual reunions, religious and secular holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Passover, etc. Religious ceremony, weddings, wedding anniversaries, leisure activities like picnic, camping, dining out, movies. Talking about marriage, usually the decision to marry is based on a mutual agreement between the man and the woman. Parents may or may not be asked to give their permission. The marriage ceremony may be a simple visit to City Hall, where marriage vows are exchanged and papers are signed, or it can be an elaborate religious or festive celebration. There are numerous alternatives to the traditional wedding ceremony. Talking about adoption, the practice of adopting children exists for parents who cannot have their own children, for parents who decide by choice not to have their own children, and for single parents, although it is difficult for single parents to adopt children. And this practice is not considered unusual, it is usual, and it is not considered negative, but it is positive in the American culture. Talking about separation happens and couples who do not wish to get divorced may decide by mutual agreement to separate. In this case, they are still legally married. Couples who have filed for divorce are separated until the divorce is finalized. Divorce can be obtained easily in most American states. Either husbands or wives can apply for divorce. Basis for divorce can be as diverse as mutual agreement of incompatibility to accusation of brutal treatment. There is usually a minimal waiting time for remarriage. Child support payments, alimony, and the division of property are usually arranged by the courts or by mutual agreement between the husband and the wife. Some institutions in society are changing in order to help the family maintain close bonds. In some jobs, pregnant women have maternity leave, allowing them up to 6 months off the job with pay. Recently, some jobs have been granting short paternity leave to men whose wives have delivered babies. In this way, the man can take care of the house and child as the woman is recovering from delivery. So in this case, even though they are divorced, but the institution still give life expenses to pregnant women and to women without job or jobless until they get a job. That's all from me about family values. I hope it's beneficial to you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.